to All That You Need to Know. I'm your host, Jesse, your friendly neighborhood J-Man. And today, I'm bringing you all that you need to know about the Superfriends. On Saturday, September 8th, 1973, ABC debuted a brand new animated show that banded together DC Comics' most beloved heroes for the first time on television, the Superfriends. Produced by Hanna Barbera and based on DC Comics' Justice League of America, Superfriends ran in various incarnations from 1973 all the way to 1986. Over the course of those 13 years, 109 episodes were created, accounting for 9 seasons in total. Hanna-Barbera, previously known for producing such cartoons as The Flintstones, The Jetsons, and Josie and the Pussycats, licensed the rights to the Justice League of America from DC Comics in 1972. The creative team in charge of the show, William Hanna, Joseph Barbera, Golden Age comic book writer Gardner Fox, and artist animator Alex Toth, had a dilemma on their collective hands. Because of the strict guidelines on children's television programming in the early 70s, the show's tone had to be lighter than that of the Justice League title. With DC Comics alums Carmine Infantino and Julius Schwartz serving as creative consultants, the show was given the name Superfriends and stripped of any violent overtones. The first season of the Superfriends consisted of 16 one-hour episodes broken down into 2 segments. The segments were fairly straightforward and formulaic. The Superfriends, consisting of Superman, Batman and Robin, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, routinely responded to catastrophes reported by the team's patented Trouble Alert system, located within the group's patriotically named Hall of Justice. Instead of relying on DC Comics' deep gallery of rogues and villains, the creators of the Superfriends focused instead on random aliens or your run-of-the-mill mad scientist bent on creating havoc for the Superfriends. Along with the core 5 heroes, the first season introduced sidekicks to the show, Wendy, Marvin, and Wonder Dog. A duo of kids without any powers, Wendy and Marvin and Wonder Dog served more of a junior sleuth role akin to another Hanna-Barbera property of the time, Scooby-Doo. The show even featured guest stars from the DCU. The Flash, Green Arrow, and Plastic Man all debuted on episodes throughout that first season. The toned-down nature of the Superfriends, it proved fatal for the freshman series, however, and the show was canceled after the first season. But never count the hero down. With the live-action Wonder Woman show introduced on primetime television on ABC in 1975, Hanna-Barbera revived the Superfriends after a 3-year hiatus in 1977. Now going by the title of the all-new Superfriends Hour, the show was revamped, retconned if you will. Gone were Wendy, Marvin, and Wonder Dog, replaced by the far more interesting shape-shifting duo of Zan, Shape of an Ice Cube, and Jaina, form of a rabbit Wolverine, known as the Wonder Twins. Of course, no group of fledgling superheroes would be complete without a pet, so the twins brought along their purple space monkey, Bleak. While the core characters remain the same in the all-new Superfriends Hour, new characters made guest appearances too, like Apache Chief, Samurai, and Black Vulcan, along with more common DC mainstays like Barry Allen's Flash and Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. 15 episodes were made of the all-new Superfriends Hour, and this time around, audiences responded accordingly. The show amounted to such a rating success, ABC decided to bring it back for a 3rd season. On September 9th, 1978, the third and most memorable incarnation of the Superfriends made its debut, Challenge of the Superfriends.
Banded together from remote galaxies are 13 of the most sinister villains of all time, the Legion of Doom. Dedicated to a single objective, the conquest of the universe. Only one group dares to challenge this intergalactic threat, the Superfriends.
This version of the show relied heavily on DC Comics' core villains, calling them the Legion of Doom. The villains included Lex Luthor, Solomon Grundy, Brainiac the Riddler, and Black Manta, just to name a few. Located within a swamp, the Legion of Doom took up residence in a headquarters that suspiciously resembled a Darth Vader helmet. The Super Friends roster was expanded from its original core of 5 to 11, adding recurring members like the Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, Apache Chief, Samurai, and Black Vulcan. As the Super Friends moved into the 80s, it would return the roster to the original 5 heroes, along with the Wonder Twins. The next several years saw the format and the name changed in different variations of the original show. The World's Greatest Super Friends ran for the 1979-1980 season, and Super Friends returned for the 1980-1982 season. In 1984, the nuclear-powered Firestorm joined the ranks of the team for then what was called Super Friends, the legendary superpower show. This version of the show was the first to tie into Kenner's 3.75-inch line of DC-inspired action figures, the Superpowers collection. By 1986, the show had finally run its course, dropping the Super Friends moniker altogether. The Superpowers team, Galactic Guardians, to once again tie into Kenner's line of action figures, ran until September 6, 1986, with its final new episode fittingly called The Death of Superman, airing on November 6, 1985. Almost 30 years since that last episode aired, the legacy of the Super Friends, which sounds like a really awesome title for a cartoon based on that era, lives on in even more recent animated shows like the Legion of Doom, appearing in the final season of Cartoon Network's Justice League Unlimited, as well as bit appearances and references in shows like Ruby Spears' produced Superman 1988 TV series, and in Cartoon Network's Batman Brave and the Bold and Young Justice. And that, my friends, is all that you need to know about the Super Friends. If you like what you've seen here, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, but most importantly, subscribe.